probably keep up with the news and all that, but like, oh dang it, I lost the page. This nice little video on the impossible quiz. Let's see what kind of comments it's getting. Oh, another request for Captain Underpants form. Well, you know, at least I'm getting requests. That's nice. That's amazing. Anyway, do Captain Underpants 9 review. I kind of want to do book 2 collector's edition and book 3. It was the first one I got, and I got it when I was 5, in the same year it came out. Well, okay, fine, I'll do it. Hey, what's up guys, it's your probably not maybe your favorite YouTuber here. Hey, what's up guys, it's probably not maybe your favorite YouTuber here. Why am I suddenly out of breath? Alright, anyway, and welcome to my review of Captain Underpants Book 9, which is not this one. Captain Underpants and the Terrifying Return of Tippy Twinkletrousers. This is the first time except for no, actually. I was about to say this is the first book to have a villain that appeared in a previous book return. Says return in the title. But, like, I was saying, like, book 7 technically, because that had to do with the Booger, but technically not, because in book 6 it was the Bionic Booger Boy, and he didn't appear in book 7. Well, technically it was Melvin, but you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, this is gonna fill action, pranks, and laughs. Huh, that's kind of unoriginal. Oh, well. 9 books already. Well, I've been at it for about, I can't even remember how long it is. Anyway, this book is so big compared to the other books. So, let's just start the review. Well, after waiting 6 years, book 9 finally came out, and Dave Pilkey knew that he had to make it the best book ever if he wanted to make up for the 6-year absence. Many people look at books 9 and 10 and see how complex the plot is and think that maybe Dave Pilkey just had writer's block, but I think something on Wikipedia, it is Wikipedia, but like saying about like he had to look after his dad. Well, the book barely opens, almost as if it's brand new, but I read it a gazillion times. Okay. Anyway, so, we started off with an introduction that introduces us to the two main characters named George Beard and Harold Hodgkins, and they introduce us to a comic that fills everyone in on what happened in the past 8 books. They kind of recap book 8, where, well, they recap the end, where Tippy Twinkletrousers suddenly appears. Now, you remember how you spent the last 6 years wondering how Tippy Twinkletrousers got this? How did he end up here? Why did he do all this? Blah, blah, blah. Well, you're gonna figure out where he got this. But other than that, all of your questions will not be answered till the next book. In fact, what the fate of these guys are, do they get zapped by this thing? Well, of course they don't. It's a children's book series. But, like, how do they escape? That won't be revealed until the next book. Because then it's revealed that originally, none of this even happened. Okay, they explain the banana cream pie paradox, which is literally basically, well, it's not, but it's the same idea as the grandfather paradox. If you don't know what that is, how? But anyway, just look it up, read about it. Come on, do some reading. Don't just sit down and watch YouTube videos, actually do some reading. But anyway, originally, Tippy Twinkletrousers didn't even appear. Harold just said, well, things can't get any worse. George was like, what? But then nothing happened, so he was just like, oh, okay, I guess nothing bad did happen. So anyway, they are indeed arrested, but they're children. But, like, they're children, so I mean, they are put into a kid's prison, but anyway. And by pure coincidence, they just so happen to drive by Mr. Crump's place, and he gets arrested too. If you want, you can read through all this stuff, but, you know, basically a whole bunch of stuff. It's actually pretty funny. You can buy the book and read it if you want. Anyway, so, surprise, surprise, the prison that Mr. Crump ends up going to is the exact same prison that Tippy Twinkletrousers, aka Professor Poopypants, goes to as well. But we know from book 4 there's a picture. We know that that's also the same prison that Dr. Diaper went to. So why is Professor Poopypants working on this giant massive monstrosity thing and Dr. Diaper is doing nothing? Anyway, so boom, Tippy Twinkletrousers built this for some reason. And you'll notice that, yes, this is pretty much the same thing that we see at the end of book 8, but it has a top. How could it possibly have had that? But anyway, it still has the same freezing thing. What happens to these guys anyway? Like, there are two types of freezing. You know, there's like, they'll know that they're frozen, and when eventually they're melted out, they'll be like, "Ooh, that was cold, that was rough," or whatever. But then, like, sometimes, like, if you freeze someone in fictional stories and unfreeze them, it's basically like you stop time for them, and they're not even aware that they were ever frozen. So, like, were these cops, like, just holding their guns up at them, and they're just like, "Huh? Where'd he go? Huh, I guess we're not good cops after all." It's very interesting, though, because when Professor Poopy, I want to call him Professor Poopypants, when Tippy Twinkletrousers, I thought it was Twinkletrousers, but anyway, when Tippy Twinkletrousers tells Mr. Crumb about how Captain Underpants destroyed him and stuff like that, Mr. Crumb actually is aware of this. Now, of course, this makes total sense. He'd probably keep up with the news and all that, but, like, oh, dang it, I lost the page. As I was saying, this is cool, because this is the first time that we actually know for a fact that Mr. Crump knows that Captain Underpants exists in real life. So why doesn't he question George and Harold coming up with the comic books and stuff like that? But anyway, so George and Harold are in their special kid prison, which actually is not that much of a prison. In fact, it's probably better than going to school. Actually, hang on, I didn't read this. It actually is on purposely better for school. It's not much different from our school, except there are library books here, and a music teacher, and an art teacher. For some reason, Mr. Crump, who's been carried around by this thing for the past, like, I don't know, however many hours, whatever, gets off. Like, he doesn't even know what this thing is. All that he knows is that George and Harold are gonna get in trouble of some sort. But for all he knows, in fact, I think that this is his plan. He's probably planning to kill these kids. I mean, like, I know that he's supposed to be an evil Mr. Crumb, and I know that he hates these kids because they do bad things to him. First off, he started it, and second off, he's gonna kill them. There's no excuse for being happy over someone killing someone, no matter how good it is. All those superhero movies where they kill the villain, or Shrek where they have the guy get eaten by a dragon, whatever. Like, none of that is actually good. I mean, like, yeah, like, sometimes if it's the only thing, like, if they're, like, in, like, spoiler alert for Superman and the Man of Steel, Superman only killed Zod. Well, that's not much of a spoiler. He did in Superman 2 as well. He only killed him because that was literally the only thing that you could do. If you have absolutely no choice... Like, people always tell you, don't fight. Fighting is stupid and stuff like that. If you actually have to, you might have to. Like, don't just be lazy and use your parents telling you not to fight as an excuse for your laziness. You actually should be practicing how to fight. I'm not saying go out there and fight people. I'm saying the exact opposite. Don't fight people, but always be prepared, because sometimes that might be the only thing that you can do. And killing is no difference. But you don't just say, "Ha, you're in big trouble now, bub." But anyway, it doesn't really matter, because George and Harold snap their fingers. And then technically, I guess Mr. Crump kind of dies at this point, because he turns into Captain Underpants, and he remains Captain Underpants until the timeline gets reset. So this version of Mr. Crump is kind of gone at this point. Trouzarz has a temper tantrum. There we go. And George, because, you know, he realizes that he just had Captain Underpants and could have destroyed him with his own hands, but didn't. And George says, "Doye?" I don't get, is there anything special, or is that just a random noise? So Captain Underpants goes to everything except fabric softener to get a cape. And then we have this awesome fight scene. I'm really hoping that the Captain Underpants movie will, like, have fight scenes like this, like an actual superhero thing. And I always wondered, like, what happened to the guys in the top of this building? Like, did the ice just go over the building and everyone inside was still safe? Or is everyone, like, from this point to these points, like, frozen? Like the guy in, like, this window, where's my finger? There it is. This window is fine. But if you're, like, over to the right here, you're frozen. And Captain Underpants does the old, "Oh, I'm hiding under this, I'm hiding on one of your body parts" thing. Come on, go ahead, give it your best shot, and then they end up using it on their own body parts. And this is when Captain Underpants pulls off the top half of his suit for some reason, but surprise, surprise, turns out that's also a time machine. Okay, so Dave Hilke, I'm not gonna blame you for this, like, I probably would have thought the same thing, but is it possible that you could have come up with a better reason for why Tippy Twinkletrousers time traveled other than he installed a time travel thing into the suit. How was he supposed to know this? I mean, like, he had his freeze ray, he had his giant robotic suit that's, like, pretty much, that couldn't even stand a fight against. So why did Tippy Twinkletrousers install a time travel thing, but didn't make it out of material strong enough to fight Captain Underpants? Other than the freeze ray. Like, seriously, his only defense is the freeze ray. Like, Captain Underpants literally pulverized him in his suit. It's always a thing that every fan of time travel wonders, though, if you do, like, if, like, okay, let's say your friend can time travel. Like, he just has it installed in his body. And your day goes rough, and you screw up something. So, you ask your best friend, can you go back in time and tell my past self all this so that he knows not to screw up? And your friend's like, sure, okay, I'll go off. He disappears into the time stream, and you're standing there waiting for the timeline to reset. But what actually happens to this version of you? Like, do you eventually forget all of it and your timeline is reset? But, like, what does that feel like? Shifting timelines. And, like, so, like, because, like, we see here, like, in the Santa Claus 3, when Santa and Jack Frost go back in time to reset the time stream, and that time stream will never be made again, like, everything turns to black to kind of say the timeline died, basically. Everyone in that version of the timeline died. But here, Tippy Twinkletrousers has already gone back in time, and here's Captain Underpants still here. Like, the timeline still exists, so, like, how long was it before it reset? And if you are going to say, like, oh, well, every time you go back in time, you're only going to an alternate universe, while this one remains unchanged. So what happened to this timeline? But anyway, we are literally then brought back in time to 11 days, 14 hours, and 6 minutes before Tippy Twinkletrousers death. Oh, look at the cute little hair wolf. That's George as a kid. Oh, look, you can't even recognize him because of his hair. But anyway, George is actually pretty smart. He's like one of those, like, you know, like, I'm not really sure how to describe it, but this is awkward. Anyway, he protects Harold from these bullies of 6th graders. And then Mr. Crump arrives, who happens to be the uncle of this kid for some reason. And he doesn't believe the kids at all. Like, seriously, like, okay, yes, this kid did beat up these 4 guys, but, like, why would Mr. Crump believe that over the fact that they didn't do something to him at all? I mean, like, won't he, like, at least talk to the guys and tell them, like, you gotta get better, right? You gotta be able to learn to fight these kids. How are you gonna fight other people? Why? I sound like I'm encouraging fighting again. Dang it! Anyway, so George and Harold become friends, and you remember in the first book when they said that pretty much Captain Underpants was only their 4th comic series. Their first was Dogman, their second was Timmy the Talking Toilet, and the third was The Amazing Cow Lady. Well, finally, we get to see the first ever comic that they ever made, Dogman. If you want to know what happens in it, buy the book. Or you can buy Dogman. And we'll get to that later, I guess, in another episode. But seriously, I just want to say it's so weird, because we think that their writing and spelling and drawings are bad in the other comics, but then you look at these, and it looks like a work of art. Okay, now, I just want to say, being a kid, I really loved reading this section of the book, where the kids are using their brains to the absolute limits to defeat the bullies. Like, seriously, no physical action at all, except for that one occasion with George beating them up with his tie. How did he do that? Look at the size of the tie! He pulled... Wait, no. Look at that. It's like a few inches, and yet we look over here, and it's like, look at it. Like, what the heck? As I was saying, I don't think that I really want to tell you what they do, because, like, I don't want to give away the entire book. But, like, I just want to say, it's absolutely incredible. Like, seriously, like, if you were one of those kids who got bullied in elementary school, you have to read this book. If you read it and read about these children having the same problems and them working together to defeat these bullies by using no physical things, like no fists, no muscles, just their brains and a bit of cash. it's incredible. It's an incredible experience. Just, you gotta read the book. But anyway, I'm gonna skip to the end real quick. Anyway, in the end, I feel like George and Harold went a bit over the top. Oh yeah, and it is explained how George got from so much hair to so little hair in this book. But, then the bullies get defeated, well, not necessarily defeated, just scared to, and they just run off. And there's a suspiciously blank page here. Huh, I wonder what its purpose is. Anyway, George and Harold managed to indirectly convince the bullies to give back because apparently, like, if you steal bubblegum, what you do to give it back is buy some of the same bubblegum, the same amount, and give it back to the kid. That makes sense. But the way to give back a wedgie is to let them wedgie you. I mean, like, yeah, that'll give them a nice satisfaction thing, but it still doesn't take away the pain that they felt from the wedgie or the humiliation. But anyway, the bullies, restore everything and then just never pick on them again. That's what happened originally. But then Tippy Twinkletrousers gets into his little thing and types in 5 years ago. What is this? What is this? He has food installed in here? I thought that he just built it just so that he could beat up Captain Underpants for like 10 minutes and then be done with it. Why did he install a food thing? Well, if he was smart enough to install a time travel thing, I guess that he might be smart enough to realize that someday he might be trapped somewhere for a while, so yeah. But what are these buttons? Hip, hip, hip. What happens if you press those? What is this thing? But anyway, he goes back in time. But what are these things? Okay, anyway, he goes back in time, and he just so happened to be in the schoolyard when this happened. But he goes back in time 5 years ago, and the exact 5-year mark happens to be exactly as these bullies are being scared out of their wits and running off from school only to return and be transformed. But then Tippy Twinkletrousers appears. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to tell you this. George and Harold kind of scared them by making them think that there were haunted pants in the school. How they did that, it's a really long story. It'll make sense if you read the book. But for them to run out of the school, already scared to the bones enough to never pick on any of the kids again, and furthermore, return everything that they did, only to come face to face with a giant blast of light, and then these. Anyway, this somehow causes them to just lose their mind, and they shove dirt in their... bleh. That's disgusting. Oh my god. Actually think about that. Shoving dirt, taking a chunk at the... Alright, I lost my mind there for a second. But anyway, Mr. Crump for some reason gets blamed for the whole thing. I think it is somewhat explained in this book. I don't quite get it though. But anyway, Tippy Twinkletrousers comes back to the future. Why? He didn't move a step though. Oh, this is 4 years later. Never mind. I thought it was 5 years later. And I was like, won't you just appear in the ice block again? Shouldn't you have taken a step forward or something? But anyway, so he comes back only to find the world as a wreck. Because remember, in the first book, as ridiculous as it may be, that George and Harold actually hypnotized their principal, which is ridiculous enough. Never mind, hypnotize him enough to make him think he's a superhero, rip off all of his clothes, run around naked, not get arrested, and for a guy midget in his diaper sending a beam to blow up the stupid moon, and for those two things to happen on the exact same day so that George and Harold can rescue them, is ridiculously small, the chances that that could happen. But nevertheless, if Mr. Crump got fired from the school, he would have never been there for George and Harold to hypnotize him. And if that happened, then Dr. Diaper would have still blown up the moon. And then he would have... The talking toilets would have evaded. I'm not sure exactly how George and Harold would have found the time to put the comic over the Pacey 2000 when the Earth was already run over with pieces of the moon. And zombie nerds still happen. Of course, book 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 never happened because Professor Poopypants, because then Dave Kilkey would have to go. Like, first of all, I just want to say, I don't really want to ruin this because I just love this idea. Captain Underpants is not around, the world is doomed. I love this idea. Like, this ending of book 9 is so amazing. I don't want to take this away. But wouldn't George and Harold just have hypnotized the next principal at the school? Maybe he was a better principal, or she. I don't know. Assuming it was Miss Anthrope. But they could have still convinced her to be Captain Underpants. But anyway, so book 4 never happened because Professor Poopypants, well, I guess it would make scientific sense, because, like, Professor Poopypants, the moon, the talking toys, the zombie nerds, how would Professor Poopypants have time to get... He wouldn't have been hired at the school. It would have been destroyed. So, yeah, never mind. It makes total sense that book 4 doesn't happen. But also, like, if it did, then Dave Pilkey will probably have to throw in a good Professor Poopypants versus bad Professor Poopypants in it. Sorry, it's Tippy Twinkletrousers. I've been calling him Professor Poopypants. Anyway. Book 5 wouldn't have happened because Miss Ribble would probably be dead by now and wouldn't become Wedgie Woman. Book 6 would have never happened because Melvin would probably be dead. Book 7 would have never happened because that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Book 6. And Book 8 wouldn't have happened because Melvin would have built the time machine if it wasn't for, you know. It makes sense. Books 1, 2, and 3 still happen though. And this is incredible. This is amazing to actually see George and Harold, other than Captain Underpants, the main heroes of the entire series, to be evil now. But what is Professor Poopypants doing? Like, they don't really look that big. Like, this is the normal adult right here. They're only, like, a few feet higher. Like, hang on. You can, like, put, like, another one on top of them, and, like, another. They're only, like, 3 times taller. Harold a little bit more just because of his hair. But anyway, so, and then, supposedly, Tippy Twinkletrousers dies. I just want to say, imagine if Dave Pilkey ended the series here. That would have been so, like, yes, that would have, like, it would have been so unsatisfying, because it just doesn't feel like it's closure at all, and, like, to have it end in a way so that none of it ever happened would have been amazing. Like, there are series that end like that. But I write some books too, and I like to end them that way. Just, like, to have, like, a sort of non-closed ending. Yeah, I know that there are a few kids who watch these. Do you know the difference between an open ending and a closed ending? Basically, a closed ending is everything is resolved. It's a happy ending. You're satisfied with it. An open ending means that it's opening a possibility for a sequel. I mean, I guess you can have a sequel with a closed ending as well, but an open ending is kind of signaling a sequel's gonna come. Like, a bad guy might escape, or a bad guy might have a plan, or something bad might happen to the good guy. But anyway, so I like, I'm hoping to someday, like, publish my stories, but, like, I like to end them on not really open endings, just, like, kind of like this sort of ending. Just, like, not really a closed ending. Not an open ending, but not a satisfying closed ending. Surprise, surprise, Dave Pilkey wasn't going to leave the kids with nightmares. He announced a 10th and supposedly final book of the Captain Underpants saga. So for all of you people commenting on my Will There Be a Captain Underpants Book 13 saying, no, of course they will. No, of course they will. Well, didn't you kind of say this about when people were asking, will there be a Captain Underpants Book 11? But anyway, so, yeah, so, and then, yeah, that's Book 9. Wow. But anyway, so, yeah. So, yeah, I still gotta review, Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets Collector's Edition, Captain Underpants and the Invasion of the Incredibly Naughty Cafeteria Ladies from Outer Space and the Subsequent Assault of the Equally Evil Interim Zombie Nurse Collector's Edition, Ook and Gluck Comfort Caveman from the Future, and Super Diaper Baby 2, The Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. I'll be reviewing those next. And, in the playlist, there'll be an order of release. So, like, this will be below all the rest, but anyway, this book was brought to you by Dave Pilkey, the creator of the entire Captain Underpants series. Read the books, enjoy the books, read the spin-offs, enjoy the spin-offs, and I will see you next time where we review the 10th epic novel, Double Digits. Hey, and it's hardcover, so I don't have to worry about ruining the book. Oh, jeez, I should worry about ruining the floor, though. Okay, anyway. Captain Underpants and the revolting revenge of the radioactive Robo-Boxers. See ya there. Goodbye. Oh, like, comment, and subscribe. Goodbye.